Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're pulling back the curtain on a world that's highly lucrative, heavily regulated, and honestly, a little bit mysterious: professional business brokerage. If you've ever wondered how multi-million-dollar businesses actually change hands, or who exactly is pulling the strings behind the scenes, well, you're in the right place. We're going to break down the whole shebang, from the intense educational grind, right through the legal red tape, to exactly how much these dealmakers are taking home. Let's kick things off with a number that really puts the stakes into perspective: 10%. You might be wondering, why even bring a broker into the mix in the first place? Well, utilizing a skilled broker can actually drive up the final sale price of a business by 10%. A great broker creates what's known as an auction effect, basically generating this competitive tension among buyers that naturally pushes the price upward. And okay, we really need to dive into this because that 10% premium, it's actually the direct solution to a downright terrifying reality for entrepreneurs. Over half of all small businesses fail to ever sell at all, literally zero. So a broker doesn't just bump up the price, they act as a vital insurance policy, making absolutely sure that a deal actually crosses the finish line, protecting the owner's life's work. So to understand how the pros pull these deals off, we're going to hit 4 quick stops today. First, education and certification pathways. Second, navigating the licensing maze. Third, real-world broker profiles. And finally, understanding broker compensation. All right, part 1, education and certification pathways, the barrier to entry. Because look, you can't just walk in off the street and start selling multi-million-dollar companies. Let's take the baseline pathway in Ontario, for example. It is a grueling 12 to 18-month grind. You've got to pass this foundational admission test called a RIAT, power through 5 intensive courses covering everything from real estate basics to commercial transactions, and then finally, lock down a brokerage sponsorship just to get your formal RACO registration. It's a massive, multi-stage hurdle. But wait, it gets deeper. Beyond those basics, there's a whole specialized tier: the Certified Business Broker, or CBB designation. It's this super intensive training system built specifically to separate the elite business brokers from, your everyday real estate agents. Because selling a living, breathing business is a whole different beast than selling a house. To even get that CBB badge, candidates have to absolutely crush a 100-point exam in just 2 hours. That means mastering some seriously complex stuff. We're talking advanced business valuation, breaking down intangible assets, like the actual value of a brand's good name, recasting financials so buyers can see the true earning potential, and, maybe the hardest part, knowing how to navigate the very real, very human fears of the buyers and sellers involved. Which brings us to part 2, navigating the licensing maze, legal red tape. Because passing the tests, yeah, that's just the start. Depending on how you set up shop, you're going to be staring down an intricate web of permits. We're talking federal tax registrations if you're pulling in over 30 grand, all the way down to provincial DBAs, or doing business as licenses, if you're operating under a fictitious name. You might even need municipal zoning permits if you're working out of your house. It is a multi-layered regulatory headache. But here's a curveball. What happens when real life collides with all that strict regulation? Life happens, right? People have kids, or maybe they have a somewhat complicated past. Does a human hiccup instantly disqualify you from this high-stakes game? Actually, no. Surprisingly, regulators like the BCFSA are pretty accommodating to the fact that we're all human. They'll actually let you pause your license for up to 18 months for parental leave without losing all your hard-earned progress. And get this, a past criminal record or even a bankruptcy doesn't automatically boot you out. You just have to strictly disclose it and, of course, prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that you've got a solid current reputation and financial stability. Okay, moving on to part 3, real-world broker profiles, a diverse industry. Let's look at the actual people practicing in the trenches today. The coolest part about this field is that there is absolutely no single cookie-cutter path to this career. Take these 2 Los Angeles brokers. On one hand, we have Serge Koryakins, who jumped into brokerage after 28 years in biotech and pharma. He basically made the leap to escape the absolute grind of being a corporate road warrior. And then you have Bill Hoop, who came in utilizing a super traditional 40-year background in finance, real estate, and securities. 2 completely different lifetimes of experience tackling the exact same job. And we see this dynamic everywhere. Look at Patricia. She leverages this highly analytical aerospace engineering background to meticulously dissect complex business financials. That is a completely different vibe than Kathleen, who brings this really innovative entrepreneurial edge, gained from years of running her own successful graphic and web design firm. But despite these wildly diverse backgrounds, aerospace to graphic design, come on, they are all united by one crucial thing: rigorous, standardized credentialing from authorities like the Accredited Certification Institute. That shared foundation is the glue. It's what allows them to speak the exact same complex language of valuations and acquisitions, no matter where they started out.
All right, finally, part 4, understanding broker compensation, following the money.
So, how exactly do these dealmakers get paid for moving million-dollar companies? Well, unlike lawyers or accountants who bill you by the hour whether you win or lose, brokers generally work on a contingent fee basis. Basically, they act like an insurance policy for the seller. They only see their real payday if the business sale successfully crosses the finish line. Sure, they'll usually grab a nominal upfront retainer to cover basic marketing costs, but the big money is 100% tied to their success in getting you a deal. And because they're risking so much of their own time, sellers really have to pay close attention to the fine print of the contract, specifically something called the tail clause. This is a standard little provision that usually sticks around for 1 to 2 years after an agreement ends. It basically says, hey, if you eventually sell to a buyer that I originally introduced you to, I still get my well-deserved commission. It completely protects the broker's hard work from being bypassed. So what do those success fees actually look like? Typically, they range from 2 to 8%, but here is the kicker. The percentage actually scales down as the total deal value scales up. So for a $2 million deal, a broker might take 8%, but on a massive $40 million mega deal, the fee drops closer to 2%. It's a structure perfectly designed to reward brokers for closing larger, far more complex transactions. So, we've walked through the educational gauntlet, the endless red tape, and those massive payoffs. But when you think about the fact that over half of all small businesses just fade away and never sell, it really makes you wonder, are business brokers simply out there selling companies, or are they ultimately selling the absolute certainty of an entrepreneur's legacy? Food for thought. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.